you doing tonight?
I'm alright, how are you?
Alright, thank you.
Yeah, how am I supposed to know if this is working?
What's on?
I said, how am I supposed to know if this is working?
No idea.
See, I'm not hearing it
No?
in here. Oh.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to call our meeting to order for October 26, 2015. First is confirmation of the agenda. Do we have any new item to add to the agenda? None. Thank you. Confirmation of minute of September 28. Is the minute carried? Thank you. Declaration of interest? None. Inquiries? None. Item number 1, we have the chief verbal report. Our chief is not with us tonight. He's on a police business, but we have acting chief Ed Keeley will deliver the chief's report. Item number 2, the National Capital Area Crime Stopper. Also, we have a presentation. We'll hold item number 2. Item number 3, appointment of a special constable, that the Ottawa Police Service Board approve the appointment of the individuals listed in Annex A as a special constable pursuant to Section 53 of the Police Service Act in accordance with the term and conditions set forth. Attach approval of appointment form. So on the item, carry? Thank you. Item number 4, board policy review, that the Ottawa Police Service Board approve the policy amendment contained in this report, and I believe there's a little friendly amendment on item number 4, and that should, the policy that was reviewed this year was virtually omitted from the report. Policy CR15, occupational health and safety, was reviewed and no changes were recommended. We need to add this to, so moved by...
So moved.
Okay. So on item number 4, approve as amended. Okay, thank you. Item number 5, the Ottawa Police Service Initiative update. So we have a staff presentation on item number 5. Item number 6, 2016 budget direction and timetable. That staff be prepared the 2016 draft operating and capital budget based on 1.75 tax increase and estimated 1.3 increase in taxes resulting from growth assessment base. So on the budget direction and timeline. Okay, thank you. Item number 7, public consultation policy annual report. That the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Received. Thank you. Item number 8, performance report, third quarter 2015. The Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Thank you. Item number 9, workforce management report, third quarter 2015, that the Ottawa Police Service Board approve the appointment of sworn officer identified in Annex B. 2, receive this report for information. Is the item carry and receive? Thank you. Item number 10, complaint report, part 5, that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. That's it. Item number 11, report on special investigation unit. The Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Item number 12, legal service report, third quarter 2015. The Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Item number 13, board monitoring requirement status report, third quarter, that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Item number 14, outstanding board inquiries and motions, October 2015. The Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Item number 15, letters of commendation. The Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. And we do have communication listed in our agenda, A, the taxi industry in Niagara Falls. So to receive on a communication. Thank you. Now I'll turn it to Acting Chief Keeley. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Good evening. I have a number of items to update the board on.
I want to start with to take a moment to acknowledge the recent passing of two of our former members. Patricia Kachmar passed away at the age of 77. She joined the Ottawa Police in 1980 and enjoyed a 26-year-long career working in the Communication Centre, at the Information Desk, and in courts. She retired in March of 2006, but she's also spent many years since that time volunteering on our behalf, both in the community and within the service. We also lost Jan Dume this month, one of the first policewomen to join our police service. She died at the age of 78 after a 41-year career with us, retiring in 2002. Policing, we have many members who dedicate a good portion and even their entire careers to this profession. Their contributions continue to be felt after they've left our service, and this was the case with both Patricia and Jan. This month was also an opportunity to reflect on the loss of Corporal Nathan Cirillo, who was shot on Parliament Hill in downtown Ottawa at the War Memorial on October 22nd, 2014. The commemorative ceremony was held at the Cenotaph on October 22nd, marking the first anniversary of the shooting. I'd like to acknowledge all those who participated in the ceremony, as well as those who assisted with the logistics and ensuring a security presence. We've laid a number of charges this month in relation to some violent crimes that have taken place in our community. Our Guns and Gangs unit recently investigated and laid charges in relation to a shooting on Montreal Road, which occurred on October 16th. During the altercation, a 30-year-old male was shot in the abdomen. He was taken to hospital, treated, and since released. A 23-year-old male has been charged with attempted murder and several firearms-related offenses. On August 10th, a male victim was stabbed in the shoulder in the area of Hunt Club and Laurie Greenberg Drive during a robbery. Two unidentified suspects were seen fleeing the scene in an SUV. In early October, an investigation led to an 18-year-old male being identified, who has since been charged in relation to this incident. On October 21st, East Patrol officers responded to a disturbance on Cedarwood Drive where a stabbing had taken place. Two adult males were arrested and transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Our East District investigators have subsequently charged a 25-year-old male and a 20-year-old male with numerous charges related to this incident. When crimes such as these occur, they shake up our neighborhood and the community's sense of safety. Their quick resolution not only holds those responsible accountable for their actions, but also helps to restore this sense of safety. I'd like to commend all of the members from across the organization involved in these investigations for their hard work. I'd like to highlight some recent work of our robbery unit in relation to 15 separate investigations which successfully led to charges. Between September 15th and October 4th, 5 separate robberies took place. Upon investigation by our robbery unit, a 21-year-old male was identified and has been charged in relation to all 5 of these incidents. A second unidentified female suspect remains outstanding. As well, between October 19th and 13th, an additional 5 robberies took place. A 35-year-old male was charged in connection with these robberies. And finally, between September 29th and October 9th, 2 suspects, typically armed with knives, robbed 5 businesses. One of the suspects has since been charged, while the second remains unidentified. The successful outcomes of these investigations would not have been possible without the combined efforts of our robbery detectives, patrol officers, the communication center, and our identification section. The drug unit recently conducted its fall 2015 outdoor marijuana eradication program. During the course of these investigations, police identified 15 locations across southern rural areas of the city. A total of 1,500 marijuana plants were seized, valued in excess of $1.5 million. From October 5th until October 8th, our human trafficking section officers participated in the 4th edition of Operation Northern Spotlight. This is a national initiative intended to combat human trafficking involving more than 40 police services across Canada. In Ottawa, 11 sex trade workers were contacted during this month's Operation Northern Spotlight. 2 adult males were charged, and a total of 11 criminal charges have been laid. I'd also like to update the board on a partnership with City Services. In April of this year, work commenced on transitioning our payroll responsibilities to the City of Ottawa payroll branch. As of today, the city has full responsibility of processing all pay implications for the police service. This transition allows our service to focus more on core functions and improve services provided to our members in frontline services. In particular, it allows us to focus on employee scheduling and attendance, which will better support operations, and our new control center, which you'll hear more about during the service initiative presentation. I'd like to thank our financial operations and human resource employees who worked on this transition, along with city payroll branch employees. Earlier this month, we began accepting applications for the 2016 Thomas G. Flanagan Scholarship Award. The scholarship is awarded annually to a racialized or Aboriginal woman who expresses an interest in policing as a career with the Ottawa Police Service, following a period of post-secondary studies. The $1,500 scholarship is awarded at the 2016 Community Police Award ceremony. Applications can be found on our website at ottawapolice.ca. On October 20th, a number of our members came together to support a fellow colleague. Retired Sergeant Wayne Nemi was diagnosed this past year with lymphoma. His particular diagnosis required a stem cell transplant. Members of our service took it upon themselves to organize a clinic, a mouse swab clinic, at our Elgin Street headquarters to find a match. OPS exceeded the expectations of the Canadian Blood Services, and a total of 96 swabs were completed during a 2-hour clinic. I'd like to thank everyone who came out for this worthwhile cause. The Department of National Defence hosted a ceremony to launch Fire Prevention Week. During that ceremony, our arson unit received the 2015 Fire and Life Safety Prevention Award. The award is for those who have gone above and beyond in respects to fire and life safety in supporting the Department of National Defence in the National Capital Region. I'd like to congratulate the arson unit on a job well done. And also this month, we introduced a new and improved compatible version of our Ottawa Police App. In addition to having access to features such as news, traffic disruptions, police station listings, and collision toolkit, users can also browse updated photos of persons who are wanted by the Ottawa Police Service, access police contact information with one click, and be reminded to leave the phone alone while driving. To date, our initial Apple app has been estimated downloaded 5,500 times. A special thank you goes to Ottawa Police Sergeant Anthony Skinner and Colin White, a student from the University of Toronto who grew up in Ottawa and developed the new Android app. And finally, just to remind the board about a few upcoming events, we have our United Way launch this coming Wednesday at our annual United Way campaign launch barbecue, which will be in the lobby of 474 Elgin. Everyone is welcome to attend. A special thank you goes out to this year's senior officer sponsor, Inspector Paul Gallant, and campaign chair, Constable Candice Lowe. Our Let's Chat Priorities 2016 to 2018 business plan on November 5th. The community consultation for the business plan will be taking place. It's an opportunity for the OPS and the Ottawa Police Service Board to hear from community and policing partners and residents on priority areas to inform our 3-year plan, which is centered on the community, members, and service. It's also an opportunity to explore questions and issues that matter to the community in small group table chats. Crime Prevention Week is between November 1st and November 7th, with a series of events being held to celebrate. This year's theme is personal safety. Members of the board are welcome to join us for a barbecue launch on Monday, November 2nd. All proceeds will go to the United Way. And lastly, on November 7th, the 6th Annual Ottawa Police Gala is being held at the Shaw Centre. This year's gala will feature former Sergeant-at-Arms and Canada's newest ambassador to Ireland, Kevin Vickers, as the keynote speaker. In the past 5 years, the gala has raised over $450,000 for local charities in our community. I'd like to take an opportunity to thank Superintendent Dan Delaney and the gala committee in the past, and Inspector Mike Laviolette with his group of people this year for taking it on, and that's November 7th. This year's proceeds go to the Ottawa Food Bank and the Caring and Sharing Exchange. And that concludes my update. Oh, I have a message here. Thank you, Jill. In the audience, we have Algonquin College Police Foundation students who are presently learning about police governance. So, for your information. Can you stand up?
Can you stand up so we know who you are? Well, first of all, I want to wish you good luck in your college, and I was so happy to walk in. I thought, wow, we have a lot of people to going to speak about the budget tonight, but I guess you will be happy to know we're going to be hiring new police officers. So thank you for attending tonight. Thank you, Acting Chief Keeley. Any question to the Chief? None? Can we receive the Chief's verbal report? Received. Thank you. Item number 2 is the National Capital Area Crime Stopper. So with us, Mr. McMillan, the Chairman of the National Capital Area. I want to say, Richard, thank you very much for your dedication and your board members for a job well done on many fronts. You come a long way, so I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate those remarks. I was reminded this evening that this is our 8th presentation to the OPSB, and it's my 5th. So it's a pleasure just to acknowledge that we have come a long way. Obviously, financial constraints and budget considerations notwithstanding, we've moved forward in a lot of different fronts. So thank you for having us at these board meetings, because it means a lot to us to be able to share with the community some of our successes and some of our challenges as well. So I'm actually joined today with some of our board members and one of our volunteers, actually 2 of our volunteers as well. So maybe just to acknowledge them for a moment, that they're in the audience with us and helping to support me provide this report. So maybe if they can stand up, we can recognize them. Good job. So we get... So Wayne, as you know, is a past president and still serves as a director, and that's really good for us. And Louise and Courtney are 2 of our volunteers that participate in a lot of different events across the region, so we're really pleased to have them. Basically, to give you an update, we've submitted a report. Sergeant Wong and Janice continue to be champions for this program, and we couldn't deliver the services without their hard work and dedication, and so we're very appreciative of the leadership that OPS members provide to us. It's quite good. Over the past year, we've continued to do all sorts of different events. In 2015, we held our 30th annual general meeting, and it was a real honor to have Deputy Chief Skinner attend and take part in that AGM. I'm reminded she's continually supporting the program, as are the senior leadership and the members of the Ottawa Police Service, and we're very thankful for that. Deputy Chief Skinner reminds me, too, that collaboration is key. And we truly believe that. So working together is important. Those are good taglines to have. The success of the program, obviously financially we're in a much healthier position, and that allows us to engage on all sorts of different fronts with the community. But more importantly, we're able to provide quality tips that help the police solve and resolve crimes and prevent crimes. And that really is a testament to the program. One of our challenges, as I've reported on many presentations, is our inability to share those success or trumpet some of those success stories with our partners, with the community at large, and certainly with the media. But I can tell you that the success that this program is able to deliver for this community is outstanding. The results that we're able to achieve are truly amazing, and we articulate those in our statistics. So the reports that we share with our public and with our police partners, mindful that sometimes when those statistics are released, sometimes there's news media clips and such. So protecting the anonymity of the tipster is crucial for us. It's one of our pillars. But, so far this year, we've assisted in the recovery of 13 firearms. We've helped with 48 arrests, 239 criminal charges. We've helped recover $78,000 worth of property. We've also helped in the recovery of over $130,000 worth of narcotics. And all of this is made possible by tipsters coming forward in an anonymous environment 2,800 times, over 2,800 times just so far this year, and sharing that information with us that we can share with all levels of law enforcement. And that's really a a real testament to the program and how successful that it has been. You know, having that iconic 1-800-222-TIPS number and the tools that we're able to provide online are really, really good. So since my last update, we've continued to do outreach in the community, and earlier this year we attended Ottawa Police Service Police Week initiatives across the city. We've attended numerous community events, the Navan Fair Parade, barbecue events. We continue to focus on vulnerable sectors and vulnerable communities as an area of engagement. Ottawa community housing events have been popular for our volunteers and certainly popular for the community. Attended a barbecue that we put on in Vanier at a Fresco with one of their partners. Councillor Tierney invited us to attend a community event on Jasmine Crescent. And these are great opportunities for us to share our program, reinforce the need to contact police or contact Crime Stoppers if you're having information that might be beneficial. Earlier this year, we also helped media awareness and launched a campaign with the National Coalition Against Contraband Tobacco, and that was quite successful for us from a couple of different points. We partnered with the Ottawa Champions Baseball Club this year and participated and helped organize a First Responders Day that was very successful. Had the Ottawa Champions mascot out to our golf tournament where we raised over $14,000 for the program. These are the kind of things that really make us committed to do better and more things. Some of our focus moving forward is to get a better engagement. You know, the folks behind me in our media contingent, Crime Stoppers has to do a better job connecting with the media. We know through our own reporting that many people come forward as a result of seeing it on a local TV broadcast, reading about it on the local newspaper, and hearing about it on our radio stations. So we have to do a better job at engaging with them. OPS Media has done a tremendous job at every one of their releases. They include the tagline, or call Crime Stoppers anonymously. Those are really important. So we need to connect better with our media partners to do that, and that's something that we're going to continue to do. In closing, I just want to reiterate the strong support and encouragement that we receive from both the board, City Council, and our police service. We're really fortunate to have that. You know, at our golf tournament, we had several councillors come out. That led to some further meetings with them to help share information about Crime Stoppers and the things that we're able to do and partner with. So I'm very encouraged by that. 2016, the year ahead is going to be a solid year for us as well. Be happy to take any questions anyone may have.
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Richard, and thank you to your board and to volunteers for doing a great job moving forward with Crime Stopper. We came a long way from a few years back. So with that, thank you so much. I'm not sure if the Chief has something to add. Acting Chief?
Well, just to extend our thanks and congratulations to all of you. You've really made great strides in raising the profile of Crime Stoppers through your engagement efforts. I think the success is seen in the results and the stability of the program. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Chief. And we have, before you leave, Richard, we have Councillor Harder and Councillor Tierney both have a little question for you, or a little comment, perhaps.
Yeah. Where did you have the golf tournament this year?
We did it at Pineview.
Oh, you're still doing it there?
Yeah, we are. It's a good venue for us, close. So.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where you always used to be, so I was just wondering about that. I don't remember receiving an invitation, but probably wouldn't go.
A lot of a lot of people just go to the dinner portion, so you don't have to be a golfer. Or,
I have my own golf tournament. I never golf.
Yeah.
Right. So I just don't golf. But what about the jail and bail? I ask you this every year.
You do. We're looking at doing it. It's quite an adventure to put on, as you can imagine.
But police played a big role in that, as I recall. We had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, we did. We are, interestingly enough, Wayne and Sergeant Wong and myself are going to meet tomorrow, and it's one of our agenda items just to sort of tackle, and our board meets this week, so we'll definitely bring it up.
Well, maybe we could help you with that and just maybe start small since we're going back to it, because it was there was a lot of pressure to perform for sure, to bring in all the cash and that, but
It is.
it was fun. I think it brought real awareness to you.
Absolutely. It's something that we'd like to do again. You know, last year we did a United Way event, Imprison the Chiefs, I think was the theme of it, and it was quite successful for United Way. We've used the jail cell at different fundraising events for other organizations that see it as a good opportunity to connect as well.
Good, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. And I would volunteer Councillor Hart to be jail and no bail.
Yeah.
Councillor Turney?
Be allowed to ask anybody for any money.
Yeah.
So actually, I just wanted to pass along my thanks as well to Wayne and yourself. Coming out in short order to that Jasmine barbecue, it was great to see such a collective group between the Resource Center, the food bank, and having you guys out there was a big part of it too. So thank you again to all your folks.
Thank you. We're welcome to go to any event anytime. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turney. One more member, Vericat.
Thank you, Chair. Hello there. Good to see you again. We did some very good work together with the Vanier BIA a couple of years back, and I was just wanting to thank you for that, because I know that with the grocery store that you mentioned, there was some really good work done in partnership. And I'm just wondering if there are other BIAs that you're working with in the city, because that's such a great partnership opportunity for all kinds of reasons. I'm just wondering if others have called upon your services there or to work together.
Not every BIA has been as engaging, obviously, as the Vanier community has. You know, we were just out in Vanier a few weeks ago to assist them with their Clean Up the Capital initiatives on a Saturday morning. And, you know, just having our presence there, we were delivering supplies, and it's worthwhile. The community really needs to do that. You know, we're open and engaged with any BIA that ever wants to take advantage of our services and participation. So we'd certainly do that. Thank you.
Okay, Member Harder.
And just building on that, and Suzanne was the former executive director, but all the BIAs don't have the same connection and wouldn't have the fit, but perhaps a presentation to co-BIA, which is would be a good idea. And Chair Eli El-Shantiri is the council connection to that.
Yes, I will communicate with you, and I will connect you to the Ottawa Council on BIA. We have 18 BIA, and we'll be happy to have a presentation from you at some point.
Absolutely.
That's a great idea. Thank you. Yep. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sergeant Juan, for your continued support to the Crime Stopper. Thank you. On a presentation, received, thank you. Item number 5 is Ottawa Police Service Initiative update, and I think we have a presentation, so I'll turn it to the Acting Chief to introduce the team. And
Mr. Chair, as you know, Deputy Chief Skinner has been leading the work of the service initiative. Joe will be joining Acting Superintendent Mark Ford and Jane Wright in delivering today's presentation. And on that note, I'll turn it over to Jill.
okay.
Thank you very much. We're going to jump right into this. I know that you've already received some information. I've met with a number of members individually, and at the end of this, I'm going to once again make that invitation that it's if you just want to have conversation about where we're heading, we're more than open to that. So we're just going to run through the background. We've given you much of this information in the past. Just want to refresh. We want to discuss a little bit about the new operating model that we're moving towards and the consultation that we have undertaken, as well as our next steps. Excuse me for 1 second. So, next. It was, there we go. With SI, there's a number of reasons why we understood that we needed to move to SI. We understood that the model that we presently have is not working. It's not sustainable. The budget, we're continuing to have budget demands placed on us than our human resources costs 83% of our overall budget. and there's no real wiggle room there. So there was a recognition that we needed to move that direction. Additionally, the city is changing. Not only is it growing, but it's also getting older. And those demographics really do affect policing. Knowing that your community is expanding the way it has, we need to be in a position that we're able to offer service. We also recognize that there's an increased complexity in crime that really does take extra resources for us to be able to respond to. You got ahead of me there. We're jumping around on the other screen there. So going back one slide, what is it that SI is trying to achieve? We're trying to achieve improved service, and that includes limiting the number of times that the public actually has to tell their story to us. We know that that causes frustration. We really do want to make sure that it's a one-stop shop. They get the service they require, and we're able to move on. Additionally, we know that we have to find money and person hours and find those efficiencies, and that is what SI is achieving now. We also know that partnerships are the way for us to improve that service, and as Richard mentioned, collaboration is key. Really, it is the way we're going to get in the future. There are a number of agencies that we overlap with the service they provide, and being able to make those formalized partnerships are going to assist us in the future. We recognize that the partnerships that we have sometimes are informal, and we find that when one member from either our agency or the external agency leaves, that partnership falls apart, and those efficiencies and effectiveness that we had achieved is gone. So we need to formalize those. A good example of that some of you may have heard of is Merit, where we bring together our stakeholders that are involved in those acutely at-risk people in our community, and we identify solutions at that table. There's a number of rules that go along with Merit so that people maintain that confidentiality that's so necessary, but we're also providing service to those people to get them out of all of our systems. And we know that in other agencies where they've implemented Merit, 50% of the cases are brought to the table by police, and only 10% have been taken away. So we know that we're doing things that other people really have the responsibility for, but we're the go-to because we're open after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Additionally, we're looking for cost recovery. We've got a couple examples. Marine Dive Trail, they presently they have a certain requirement for training. Additionally, when they're doing that training, they're in the quarries. Well, that's where people dump their stolen cars. Once they're dumped, they become the property of insurance companies. Insurance companies have an environmental responsibility to get that vehicle out of there. So it's a win-win for both of us because we have to do training, we have to have a certain number of hours, and the insurance company wants the vehicle out. We do it at our paid duty rates. The insurance companies would have to bring in experts, and I can tell you that the experts charge a lot more than we do. So it's a win-win as far as we're concerned. Additionally, we're doing escorts now for people who are VIPs, as they're called. We're doing those through the city when there's a lower level of risk. When it's a high level of risk, we'll continue to collaborate with the RCMP, but at a lower level, we do generate revenue on that area. So what I'd like to talk about is the new operating model. It's really where we've gotten to, the work that we've done over the past number of months. We started in June, and this actually came from the target operating model that you would have gotten a presentation from last year. That's the model that KPMG, we worked with KPMG to develop that model, and it's really the high-level future vision of the Ottawa Police, where the new operating model, or we're calling it the integrated operating model, is really about real reality, what is happening on the ground day to day. So we'll walk through that as we move forward, but I want to tell you how we got there. So back in June, we developed a number of working groups. Those working groups consisted of more than 100 members from across the organization, and they developed options for each of the projects that are identified: demand management, organizational design, and the control center. Those those options were developed and brought forward, and then we use what are called organizational design principles. And they're basically a scorecard that you score against to identify to score models against each other. Those models were then brought to the senior management and the executive command for endorsement, and there was an agreement that those were the best options available. Those options were then brought back to the team so that they could integrate the individual projects into one, as a result of which we got the operating model that was then brought forward again to the executive, where there was another endorsement. That endorsement in June started our consultation cycle. Through June and September, we actually consulted with a large number of members in the organization and let them have a look at the what's. So what are the activities that we as an organization have to do to be efficient and effective? We knew going into that we were going to get some questions that we don't have the answers to yet. How is this going to affect me? We know that that's what people want to know. We're not there yet. And I think one of the things that this does tell people is that this isn't a model we already know the answers to. This really is about them generating what the future of this organization is going to look like. So trying to get that buy-in is really essential to us. So this is the integrated operating model. We actually call this a storyboard, and it really does tell a story of the day-to-day operations of the Ottawa Police Service. It is about the what. So if you look in the top left-hand corner, that's the point of service. What we've said about point of service is there's a number of assumptions up there that there absolutely no way you can read. I believe you have a larger model in front of you. But, a number of things that are there that is assumptions. So 911 is not going away. We are going to keep 911, and it's going to continue to be the emergency number. We then want to take all of the other methods of bringing information into the system and bring it into one phone number. So we want to limit the confusion for the public. What we also want to do is initiate what's called an interactive voice response. And you probably have heard or seen of an IVR before. It's our cable companies and our telephone companies use them, and it's really a menu base. And with a menu, you're able to put to the top of the menu the services that are most called for. So we can actually look at our crime stats and say, assaults is the #1 call type. We're going to put that at the top of our menu so people don't have to listen to the entire menu before they're getting that service. The other piece that we are putting on this menu is if you push 0, you go back to the beginning of the model, to the menu, so you don't get to skip and not listen to us. Yes? Excuse me. So depending on the choice that the public makes, that's where they're going to be routed to. So it's important to understand that this means that they're not going to have to tell their story over and over again. And we all hear about the frustration of people feeling like they've told their story 100 times before they finally get into the system. So it's really us trying to limit those numbers of telling the story. Depending on the person's choice, that will take them to either a live agent, mobile response, which is our dispatch, or to an alternative response, which I'll talk about in a moment. Community education and consultation has not happened yet, but we know that we're going to have to plan for that in the future. We just need to be at the right place to be able to answer questions before we go there. So the next piece is the alternative response. So this is an area where we actually know that we're going to find the gold. This is where the crux of the capacity will actually be realized. So we're conducting an analysis of all of the non-emergency calls that we have. In 2014, we received 827,000 calls. That includes information desk inquiries, call center, comm center, officer initiated, as well as switchboard 911 and the 230 phone number. 339 of those were actually entered into the CAD, so the computer-aided dispatch. 244,000 were actually, we provided a mobile response to. 142,000 were generated by the members of the public. When we break those down, P1s and P2s made up only 28,000 of those calls, or 20% of the calls. So we've actually, I think, put ourselves in a bit of a position where we're not going to be able to achieve the benchmark that we've created because we have such a high number of calls that we believe we have to respond to in a short amount of time, with all of these other emergency calls continuing to push our limits. So the P3s through 7s accounted for 114,000 of the calls for service, or 80% of our calls. These are the calls that we're actually considering for our alternative response. So the alternative response is going to be made up of a number of modes and enhancing some of the services that we already provide. So we're going to continue to have the walk-ins, so people being able to come to our information desks and get their service. Additionally, a telephone reporting, which we presently have. We may want to increase the number of the types of calls that we receive there. As well, enhanced online. So right now we have quite a limited menu. We believe we'll be able to increase that. And we have callbacks. So callbacks right now are already done by the call center when their queue gets too full. We do call people back. But this may be a planned callback. So somebody sends us, we're not sure what the hows look like, but we know that we'll be able to call people back at a time that's more appropriate for them to actually provide us the information. And then appointments. And this is actually one of the areas where I think we could really provide some high-level service. You can imagine yourself arriving home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and needing to report something to the police and being told, well, we will be there within 2 hours. Your life basically goes on hold for 2 hours. And that may not be the best time for you. So the appointments will actually allow us to make the appointment when it's good for the client, but it'll also be good for us because we'll have the resources in place at those times. So we'll be able to give them an area that they could say, these times work for me and these work for the police service. And then finally, a delayed mobile response. So this is sending a sworn officer, but sending a sworn officer once again at an appointed time where a person can be in a position to receive the officer. Over in the bottom left is the integrated frontline deployment. And this is really just bringing all of our uniformed members together. We still need to look at whether this is a specialist or a generalist model. But what it does give us is it gives us that fluidity and flexibility in deployment. So right now we have a number of resources that are on the road that are hidden resources. We really don't know. A dispatch system really looks at the people that are in patrol. This will allow us to look at everybody that's in uniform and be able to use them. And one of the assumptions in this one is emergency calls are the responsibility of all uniformed officers. And that's going to be key for us to drive that message home to our members that they're there to provide service to the public. In the bottom right-hand corner is Centralized Investigations. And this is just bringing all of our investigators together. Some of you may live out close to Huntmar or 10th Line, and right now we do have investigators working out there. The plan is to leave those investigators in those areas, but to have their chain of command out of CID. And really, this is just to allow us to maintain much more control over the investigative resources that we have, and then be fluid and adaptable when we have things that happen. Last year we had a number of gang issues that we had to address, and to be able to move those members from one unit to another takes a lot of work when you get into such a large organization with numerous chains of command involved. It also allows us to leverage the skills and abilities of our members and actually be able to coach and mentor people in some of the more specialized types of investigations. And the final piece of the investigative mode is a 24/7 case management. And this is really just making sure that our frontline folks are getting the information that our investigators are going to need, and then we can prioritize the investigations that we have so that we move to the top those investigations that need to be conducted quickly, where we take our time with some of the investigations that are at the lower level. The next one is the control center, and this is actually the most exciting piece because it is brand new. This is really about having situational awareness across the entire city so that we can manage and deploy our resources where we need them. The control center does not take the role of the comm center, though. It's important to know that this is separate and apart. There is going to be communication links between the two, but this is really about maintaining that enterprise knowledge of the entire city. There is plans to have an ability to provide near real-time data to our front line, and that's either while the officers are en route, on scene, or in the early stage of investigation, so they really get that crime analyst information to them when they need it. We know that this is going to have an impact on our solvability because we're going to have the information they need to be conducting those investigations. We recently held a 2-day working planning session with our working groups, and we brought in Calgary and Toronto Police, who both already have control centers in place, and we're taking the lessons learned by them, because they had some great examples of things that we didn't want to do, and some other things that they said we absolutely needed to do for the control center to be efficient. So this next slide actually just speaks about the consultation that took place over the summer. And you can see that quite a number of people were spoken with. The entire team, including myself, went to all of these sessions. Groups of, you can see groups of no larger than 35 were spoken to, and more than 1,000 members were provided this information, the same kind of information that you're getting. What we're trying to do is bring the membership along with us, so even the ones that aren't involved in the working groups have an understanding of where we're heading, so that everybody can be marching in the same step. I think it is important to recognize that we also recognize change is complex. This is not a simple organization with no tentacles. It is really like peeling an onion. Every time we undo something, we realize that there's more interconnectivity, and we really do need to understand those connectivities so that when we make changes, we're not negatively impacting the service that we're providing. We're continuing to provide engagement and consultation opportunities. We've got a number of different ways for people to get information to us, and we continue to disseminate as quickly as we have things solidified. Excuse me. So what are the next steps? So the next steps, we have up to 75 members, and they're from a cross-section of the entire organization, from different ranks and experience. Some of the people that have come to us as more experienced people come to us with those experiences and are able to assist with what we're planning in the future. We have somebody that's won one of the working groups that used to be an air traffic controller. So you can imagine the way they think as compared to a frontline officer. So it's really about bringing all that expertise into the room so that whatever model we come up with is going to work, but it's also going to be something that they've developed. Excuse me. The projects are all at a different stage, but we're trying to get them all to the same points here. So really, we've conducted the preliminary work on the what's, and now we're moving to the how's. So the frontline deployment investigations and the control center are entering into the design phase, while the demand and the point of service are continuing in their analysis and assessment. We will then be moving into the structural design phase, the who, the where, and the when, and we believe that that will start around December of this year. And then implementation will begin in the new year. The timelines are quite, they're not solid. We have general ideas of where we're heading. But you've heard a number of presentations from us about the SI. This is not a one-year project. This is a 3 to 5 year project that's going to continue. We have to continue to look at the way we conduct business and continue to look at ways we can improve. So what are the achievable outcomes for Q1 of 2016? Well, we know we need to be realistic. We can't expect to make changes quickly, but we also look at the current realities. If we were to have an October 22nd and we have to plan for those kinds of things, it is going to impact our ability to make these changes. Additionally, the working groups are not dedicated resources. They are people who have regular jobs. So we're bringing them in once a week to do the work, and then we're actually sending them away to do homework. So some of the work is going to take a little bit longer than we might want, but this is the only way we can do it with an organization that has to continue to be available 24/7. We also know that there are many dependencies, and we have to take them into account as we begin to make changes. So over on the right-hand side, you'll see the achievable outcomes that we're expecting for the first quarter of 2016. And that will be the control center concept of operations, the point of service implementation, and with the updated IVR system. As well, we're going to realign the investigation units so that they're all in the one chain of command. The districting model, which is the boundaries and the zones, and continue to do the demand analysis and the capacity realization. So we know that policing has evolved into a highly sophisticated, resource-intensive, and complex profession in a dynamic environment. And we have a number of pressures that we're facing as a police service, whether it's budget, growth, demographics, the growing demands for service, and the level of effort that we actually have to put into that, as well as the increasing complexity of crime, whether that's high-tech crime, human trafficking, multi-jurisdiction investigations, and/or technology. There are many complexities and dependencies that we know, as well as some integration points. We have an IT roadmap that's moving forward. We have a facilities plan. We have to look at budgets. All of these things have to be incorporated into how we move forward with the change. And subject to questions, I'm concluded. Before I conclude, I'm sorry, I just want to say that there's a number of people that are behind the scenes that are making this move forward. This is a very challenging thing to try and make change in an organization that is so entrenched in history. So to make these kinds of changes, the people that are in the teams are really working hard. I get to be the face of all of their hard work, and I really think that as an organization, we're very proud of the people that are working so hard at this. So I want to just make sure they get recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief, for your presentation, and thank you for being available to all of us at many different occasions to go through some of these, needless to say, tough decisions to make. But I'll turn it over to my colleague Sandy, and then we have Member Harder. Any other member? And Member Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Deputy Chief Skinner. I know this has been a very complex and challenging task that you've been handed, and I know you and I met and we've had some discussions, and I think following up on some things that you and I spoke about, I wondered, have you or will you be looking at the possibility of outsourcing? I mean, you mentioned that the human resources represent over 80% of the costs that we face, budgetary costs, and given that those costs are rising, or have been rising at a faster rate than our budget has been increasing, I'm wondering, in terms of outsourcing, have you looked at the possibility of third-party or non-union service providers? I also wondered, another issue that we had spoken about before was the rate at which we charge out our officers when they're working at different places. I know it's cost recovery, yes, but what I would like to know is that have you looked at the rate that we're charging? And I know that some organizations charge out at twice what they actually pay so that they completely cover costs, and I'm just wondering, have you looked into that, and could you give us some information on that? Thank you.
Definitely. Through the chair, the first question is, have we considered outsourcing? That's actually something that you have been involved in. You recently saw the outsourcing for the single point of access at the courthouse. So we were able to realize 3 FTEs as a result of that new work that was put on to us by the Ministry of the Attorney General. So rather than us growing, we were actually able to say that is the Ministry's work, and we now have FFPA that's conducting that work. And for the second question, the cost recovery, I am going to turn it over to Director General Fraser, because there are a number of rules that she's much more aware of than I.
Okay, Director General.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We take legal counsel's guidance on the matter of what we're able to recover beyond our immediate costs, and so I wouldn't go beyond perhaps asking David White to comment on that. Generally, we have been recovering what the officers are paid, which is time and a half, and our own overhead costs, which are generally between 20 and 25%. And the guidance has been that the police service is not in a position to be able to make money based on its governance framework. And David, if you'd like to comment on that, and we're allowed to do anything different, we'll be happy to do that.
Mr. White.
Yeah, to the Director General's comments, there are certain limitations in terms of what it is that municipality or police services board can do in the context of cost recovery, and it really has to be a cost recovery issue. While there has been some kind of increased flexibility over the past few years in terms of what constitutes the total cost, revenue generation through those kinds of things is generally not something that's permitted.
Member Small.
Thank you. Well, I was thinking specifically we are recovering their costs, their salaries, but are we recovering things like their pension benefits? Are we covering the training costs to us? Are we recovering the vehicle costs, equipment costs? There are an awful lot of costs involved that are not salary related. And so what I would like to see is something that shows that we're recovering all of the costs, including if we have to have somebody to back them up on something or if there's some role they're not playing. The other thing is, if I may, Chair, with respect to my first question, thank you for the one example. What I was asking, though, is are there a series of opportunities that you're looking at? One is great. The question is, how many others are you looking at, and could we be given an order of magnitude of the kind of possibilities that there might be there and the extent to which you're looking into that? Thank you.
Deputy?
In regards to the question that you're asking of me, really we're at the what's right now, so it's really about the high levels. Until we get into the more really into the detail work, we're not going to know what those examples are, but we're certainly open to those, and we're continuing to do best practice and connect with other police agencies across the country to make sure that we're looking at every new way of doing business. So certainly that we have our eyes on that, the way of doing business. Thank you.
Director General, you want to comment on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to the overhead charge, we're having a look at that as one of the business cases that's coming forward under SI. Right now, Member Smallwood, we do charge for any related equipment that's identified for the paid duties. So, for example, if there's a vehicle associated with it, we charge for the vehicle and we recover overhead costs as well. But what did come forward was a business case to go back and have a look at those overhead and recovery rates to ensure that we are recovering everything related up through our overhead tree, if you were. And so we'll bring that back to the board, because if we're going to change those rates, we'll require a bit of board approval. So you'll see that probably in Q1.
Okay, thank you, Director General. Member Harder.
Thank you. I just had a couple of questions on page 5, which was just, I found it to be too busy, quite frankly, to, it is too busy. It's just too busy. So if you're going to show this to anybody after us, I would really change it. Even with you saying look in the left-hand corner and then look in the, I never really realized if we even got to functions. But the my question on the where the telephone is up in the upper left-hand thing, where you say cannot override, must listen to all choices. What is the reason to do that? Because that just, I mean, it's one thing if they say, here's your choices. Number 1, want to file a complaint. Well, if that's all you want to do, why should you listen to 7 of them or whatever? That would be crazy, because then half the time, a lot of people would forget which number it was they actually wanted to. They'd have to press 0 and then go back to the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like, normally with automated, voice activated, you know, if whether it's Bell, Rogers, anybody, you just hit the button when, yeah, that's the one I want. I want to talk about my account.
Yeah. Actually, it's just maybe the wording of that. So really, that just means that you can't push 0 and get a live agent.
Okay.
Yeah. If you hear the choice that you want, you can push that number.
That's not what it says. So that's good. And then I just wanted to ask you, what you were saying that P1 and P2, is that priority?
Yes, ma'am.
But then what's P7?
Well, it goes from P1 to P7. So P7 might be picking up of a found bicycle.
Found bicycle.
Yeah. That somebody's found.
Cart in Councillor Tierney's area. Okay. Thank you. So, but anyway, it was a huge undertaking, and I really appreciate it. I think you're on the right track. I just think you could have less words there.
Well, I suppose what that speaks to is the complexity of our organization, yeah, and the tasks and the things that we have to do on a regular basis, and the number of people that have to do the work.
So I guess depends on who your target audience is again. So, I mean, if you are talking to staff, they're going to get a lot of this anyways. But I think there has to be like a happy medium, that's all.
If we were going to the public for consultation, we would do consultation on a very focused area. So it might be on the access, and that would be the only thing that they would see.
Right.
So they would not see all of the other pieces of the organization.
Sure, thank you.
And, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, if I could just go back to Member Smallwood's question. We have actually developed an alternative service delivery strategy. So it's really looking at how do we have to provide service? So is it by sworn members, civilian members? Does it need to be outsourced? Can it be special constables? So we have an overall strategy, and the reason that we've developed that strategy is so when we have the options that are going to come forward in the future with all those business cases, we're actually going to have a criteria or a scoring mechanism to say, this is when we're going to use special constables, so that we don't make decisions for one business case and make different decisions for the next business case. So we have developed that strategy, and it's just in draft now to going through to get approval throughout the chain of command. But thank you.
And if we can use the court as an example, what you did at the court, that will be the segue to other businesses, right?
Yes.
Member Turner first. So.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to commend you on using the term the client. I think that's very important, is we're serving the taxpayers of Ottawa, and I think that's an important designation for sure to put in there. I was going through it, and it is a great slide, and I think Councillor Harder is correct. There's so much great information in there. It'd be great to parcel out a little bit more. One area that I was trying to look for in here is the SROs and how they might fit into this puzzle, or do they fit into this puzzle? Because I believe we have about 32 SROs within our school environments, and do they have a role to play within this environment?
Yes, Madam.
Yes, if you look in the lower left-hand corner, they are part of a fully integrated frontline deployment. So it's really, if you think about an SRO, they are really community officers, and their community is the schools that are assigned to them. So they are found in that lower quadrant.
That's great. Okay, good. I wasn't able to see that there. I got to really zoom in tight. The other one.
The map they give me is about this big.
The community policing aspect too. There's lots of discussion around their involvement within communities. Obviously, more than just bricks and mortar sitting in the buildings now. Seeing them out and about. They also fit in here. I see their name in that left quadrant, but I'm assuming they have a large role to play as well.
Absolutely. When you look at that lower quadrant, it may seem like it speaks to CPCOs, but it's actually about the work they do. So that may be part of everyone's work. We haven't determined that yet, but that community policing is definitely part of it. My own vision is that they are the quarterbacks. They are the people that are going to make decisions about what's happening, and they're going to be the ones that are knowledge-based to be able to help their patrol and frontline district people to say, these are the things that we need to be focusing on.
Couldn't agree more. I think our community police officers have their finger on the pulse in those communities. And it's, I know they always have to rotate around, and it's always a learning curve when the new people come in, but I think they have a major role. And last but not least is police checks. I don't see anything within this environment on this. Is that something that fits into the puzzle as well?
I will ask Director General. We'll talk about the police record check.
So police record checks are part of what we would call the back office. So they're part of a service we provide to clients throughout the city. They haven't been part of the SI model per se, but it's something that we're doing to improve service through the back office transformation to our citizens. And you'll see us actually launching the online application so that we can provide online background checks throughout the city. We just actually signed the contract with the vendor, and we hope to be able to do that in Q2 2016. So it falls more on my side of the house than through the SI itself, but we're connecting because it's part of the efficiencies and the benefits that SI is striving to achieve.
This is great news. I got to admit, I'm very excited about this, participating in the coaching realm and being part of volunteer stuff within communities, and the challenges around the current paper-based models there's lots of opportunities with the online, and I'm assuming we'll have a more wholesome presentation in the future when we get to the point of launching that. But I definitely see a benefit, especially if we're leading the charge on this, because I've looked around at other municipalities and I haven't seen that yet. I've been praying for it, and I think volunteers in the community have too. So again, thank you for the information on that.
Thank you, Member Cheney. Thank you, Director General. Member Nichols.
Deputy, thank you very much for your presentation, and I really would like to commend you, because this has been a great presentation, and I can see you guys are deeply into it now. This is, I'm getting excited. At the very beginning of your presentation, you told us that we needed to do this because there were challenges in our environment. One challenge you mentioned was that we're spending about 83% of our budget on compensation. Crime was becoming more complex. Our role was becoming older. Now, so I'm assuming then that whatever the actions we're taking are designed to address the problems related to those issues. So we must have some measuring tools to ask whether or not are we actually, what are the problems those things spew up, and how are we going to measure? So that's kind of one area I'd like you to talk a little bit about. The second area that I'd like to know a bit more about is, it appears to me you did focus groups or briefing sessions with about 1,000 people internally. And I'm curious to know what their response was. Was this mostly you saying, here's a plan, or was it, let's talk about and discuss? How much resistance you think you're going to have, and what's the plan for that? And I want to support Member Smallwood on the cost things. I mean, just in our conversation today, I heard the Director General talk about, administrative costs of 25%, and we're spending 83% on compensation. That tells me we got a problem already. If we're spending 25% outside of compensation, and compensation is 83%, I already see a big gap today. Is that a fair assumption?
No, I think it was the 83% we're talking about.
No, in terms of the identifying the formula for cost recovery, what I thought I heard was there's a salary, there's compensation, and there's some additional costs that are not salary or compensation that are about 20-25%. That's your working thesis. That's what it sounded like. And I'm comparing that to our big budget. 83% over here, and what sounds to me like 17% on the other side. So do we have an existing problem of we're starving the non-compensation part of our budget, and how challenging is that problem?
If I can start with this, from my understanding, Member Nicholson, when we do talk about paid duty, so we charge time and a half for paid duty, and then we add the vehicle, the wear and tear, the gas, and all the other, and we charge 20%, I believe, administration. So this will be part, just similar when we negotiate the contract with the airport or any other paid duties. And I believe we can only cover our cost plus percentage for administration. We cannot make money per se, basically police for hire, where you can make lots of money on it. That's from my understanding how we negotiate the contract in the past. You can add, Director General.
I think there's probably two different discussions going on here. The overhead discussion is one that we can cost out based on a couple of the cost accounting theory of direct and indirect costs. So this, get out your notebooks now. When we look at a paid duty, for example, and I always use my favorite example of the East End Costco, because that's where I go, but the officer there is on duty for 5 hours. Their supervisor comes by every 20 to 40 minutes to supervise them. That's the sergeant. The road sergeant comes by, and so we need to attribute 10 minutes of road sergeant time for the every hour for the 5 hours of paid duty. That's part of a more direct overhead cost. And then the paid duty group itself, which is made up of a clerk and a staff sergeant and inspector, they supervise the administration of 1,500 paid duty contracts, of which that officer on Saturday at Costco is one. So we're going to spread the costs of the paid duty clerk, the staff sergeant, and about a third of the inspector, because the inspector also picks up 2 other sections, special events and labor relations. We're going to spread the inspector's costs over those 3 sections. So at the end of the day, those costs result in about 25% on top of the officer's salary. So that's just a straight cost accounting exercise. And those 2 facts are exactly correct. There's about a 25% overhead rate on a paid duty officer, and the police service cost structure is about 84% of our work is salaries. Those 2 are exactly correct facts. And then you've introduced a third fact, which is, our budget continues to grow with that split. But everything you've said is actually factually correct.
And we are reviewing the paid duty costs, right? We are reviewing the costs, and will come back to us. So that's a no. No, but I mean, you have a couple of questions for Member Nicholson. I know I saw you writing down, so go ahead, Deputy.
So the first question was, how are we going to measure? Well, actually, something that you don't see here that was part of SI at the outset was performance management framework. And that really has been siphoned off and given back to the area that's responsible, which is PPNA, which is Acting Superintendent Ford's day job. When he's not involved in SI, he's actually responsible for the PPA. So what's happening with the performance management framework is it's an overall organizational scorecard, which then is going to be broken down into until we get to the member. So it'll be a division, section, unit, right to the member. So there will be measurements as we go along, and all of those measurements will be linked into the control center. So the control center will be driven by technology that's able to provide us with those dashboards, so that we can actually see that on a near real-time basis, so that we'll know, okay, we're having a real problem with sick leave, or we need more cars to be able to work in this area, we're seeing crime go up in this area, we need to move people here. Those are the kinds of things we'll be able to see on the dashboard. Whether or not we're providing, giving tickets in a certain area, are we seeing a drop in collisions, those are the things that we'll be able to measure as we move forward. And then your second question was in regards to feedback from the consultations that took place. So first of all, we did have focus groups, and those focus groups were managed individually, and then there was briefings that also took place. What we did hear from the people was, once they understood that we were there to provide them the what, and the who and the how was coming, and they were going to be involved in the who and the how. Some of that anxiety, because there's definitely anxiety about this level of change, and we recognize that. So it's really about repeating the information, continuing to put it out in different ways, so that people are starting to understand. When we get to the who's and the hows, we're going to have to go through that entire process over again, because it's really about making sure that people are comfortable with what we're moving forward with. Because we also know that when changes are implemented, if people are very uncomfortable, they will revert back to their old way of doing business. So we need to, once again, make sure those performance management frameworks are in place so that we can hold people accountable to the jobs that they need to be doing. So hopefully that's tied your 2 questions together.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much. I mean, I could pursue these a lot, but we'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Member Nicholson. Member Valiquette.
This is a great discussion, eh? And it's very complex, there's no doubt about it. But I'm trying to get my mind around the development of a new districting model to assist with frontline deployment. How does that fit in with the whole raison d'être of this initiative?
Deputy?
Indeed. Well, how does it fit in? Well, we provide service to various areas of the city, and right now we know that we have units who are extremely busy, and we also know that we have some units that are running off their feet. So we know that we need to put the resources where we have the calls for service, where we have the need, and that's what the redistricting is going to do. It's going to provide us a much better picture on where the service requests are, and then identify to us where we need to put our resources. So, you know, things have changed a lot since we went through the districting a number of years ago. The city has continued to grow. Barrhaven is one example that I use often because I went back to patrol when we went to the new districts, and we had one car out there. Well, I can tell you that Barrhaven takes a lot more than one car to respond to. So we're continuously putting our extra units into that area, even though we know that, you know, if we did a redistricting, we would see the level of effort required to police certain areas has increased. So that's really what the redistricting is.
So are you talking about changing the way that you've got the city divided up now?
That's correct.
Thank you, Member Velika. Any other question? So we can receive the report and the presentation for information. I want to say thank you, Deputy, to you and to the whole team. Thank you very much, folks, and job well done. Thank you. That will conclude our public portion of the meeting. I need a motion to move in camera, moved by Member Harder. To the student who joined us tonight, thank you, student, and good luck to you in your journey. Thank you very much.